Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be finishing the setting up of the MoviChip KSC. In the previous video we went through the app to show how we identify the knock frequency from the sensor. In this video we're going to show you how to set the threshold. So we go into the app, we open the options menu, we come down to the baseline calibration menu. So at the moment I've already got the saved volume. The saved volume is the threshold above which counts as knock. So we're going to do this process from the beginning. So I'm just going to set up the save volume to a high number because I don't want it triggering the ECU to retard ignition time, and I want to get the full volume values from the engine. I need to retard the ignition timing, so I know that the sound of the knock sensor is hearing is definitely, absolutely, positively no knocking it. So what I've done is I've retarded the ignition timing by 5 degrees at all points in the map. I'm going to switch on the baseline calibration. I'll just increase this threshold slightly more. So I'm going to click on for the baseline calibration, and now the MoviChip KSC is monitoring the knock sensor signal according to RPM, and it's going to tell us what was the peak volume that it recorded at the 3 RPM points during this test that we're doing now. So I'm going to be driving around at different RPMs, different throttle positions, so we get a full range of volumes going into the KSC. Okay, so we've driven around a little bit. We're just going to press off on the baseline calibration now, and it has populated the peak volume with the peak intensity that is recorded during that time. So we're just going to put the saved volumes now to a value that is 1 above what it's been recorded. So in this case 3, 4 and 6, and this will be our threshold. So when the knock intensity goes above these volumes at set RPM, i.e. at 3,400 RPM, if the intensity goes above 4, then it's going to indicate knock to the 12 volt signal going to a LED or a buzzer, whatever you got it hooked up to, and a 5 volt signal going to an ECU if you've got it hooked up to an ECU, for the ECU to retard ignition timing. So the next step, we're just going to validate that this is working properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our ignition timing, and we're going to make the ignition timing 0 everywhere, first of all, to return it back to baseline. And then for the purpose of this example, 2,187 RPM, we're going to advance the timing by 4 degrees. We're going to write that to the ECU. So that's done. So now we've advanced the timing by 4 degrees at 2,187 RPM. So now what we're looking for is these LEDs to come on when we are at around 2,100 RPM with a decent amount of load on the engine. And there we have them coming on. We'll just do it again. It's actually resisting quite knock a lot today. I'm not sure what the reason is for that. Some days it's better than others. It is relatively cool today at the moment. But it's very easy to hear this engine knocking. It does usually run very close to the limit. So there we have it again. So we can hear it audibly, the engine knocking, and we can also see it on the LEDs. So that is how we set up the knock threshold using the KSC. One thing I should add, one thing I didn't explain at the start of the video was the RPM. Like, where does it get the 1200, the 3400 and the 4600 from? Below the plus and minus, when we set the threshold, we have mid RPM and red line RPM. Here we set the mid RPM. So if I put it to 3000 RPM plus or minus 500 RPM, it's going to put the mid RPM in that area. And for the red line, I've set it at 5000. So the max RPM, the top end of the RPM, is going to be between 4 and 5000 RPM. So in this particular case, at 4600 RPM, it detected the peak intensity for that frequency from the knock sensor. So once you put in those RPM numbers here, when you do the baseline calibration, this is where it gets the RPMs from, the RPM segments from. The 1200 RPM, the first one, it's set to record the highest frequency, the highest intensity, sorry, between 1000 and 2000 RPM. And then values in between the RPM, say 1800 RPM, it will interpolate the values between 3 and 4. So in this case, it's probably going to be 4, because there isn't much difference between them. On your car, with your sensors, maybe the difference will be more, but on the specific one, it's relatively small differences between the segments. That's how you set up the threshold with the MoviChip KSC. If you want to see a complete video from start to finish of setting up the this knock sensor controller, I will put up, that will be the next video that I will be uploading. If you go onto our website, you can see more information on this product. You can subscribe to our newsletter there, and you can get updates in your inbox. So until next time, thanks for watching.